Can't you hear the world is calling for you? Can't you hear the world is calling? The world is calling. The world is calling for you. Can't you hear the world is calling? The world is calling. The world is calling for you.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Idea Academy stream. It's good to see you all here. Welcome in. Hi, Kitty Cat. It's good to see you as well. Welcome in, whether you're watching on Twitch or YouTube. It's great to have you today. I'm really excited to be back. Well, not really back. We do this stream every week, but it's been kind of strange lately. The timing has been odd, I know, and so we're kinda dealing with the holiday season, which is what we're here to talk about today. How is your holiday going? How's everything going? Are you having a good holiday? Has it been difficult? The holidays come with their own challenges. And that's a part of what we're gonna talk about today. I when I was thinking, when I was reflecting on the types of things that I wanted to go through and the types of challenges that are closing out the old year, and don't get me wrong, we're gonna talk about the new year. I've got a great challenge that's available to you right now. It is totally free, for those who are interested in jumping into a challenge to start off the new year. But I wanted to talk a little bit about closing out the end of the year as well. Abdulurk, all right, welcome in, Head of Steel. It's good to see you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. One of the things that I think we all face some challenges with is the family dynamic at holidays. Don't you feel that? How are my holidays? Well, I guess we can start with that. My holidays so far have been absolutely amazing. Yesterday, we had Christmas at home. Here's the thing. I put out a post on my social media. Hey Patch, thanks for lurking as well. I put out a post on my social media. If you're not following, by the way, you can look me up. It's Andrew Burkham, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you go. You can find me there. But I put out a post on Christmas Eve talking about the idea of anticipation. Because for me, Christmas Eve is the embodiment of anticipation. There's this there's this moment where the whole world is kind of holding its breath, right? And if you are a believer like I am in Jesus, then you understand that there's this moment where literally it talks about in various parts of the Bible, it talks about the whole creation groaning in anticipation. But it's really the linguistic sense is really of this just exuberant inhale and just waiting to exhale. And all of creation is doing that in preparation for this miracle that's going to happen on Christmas. But even if you don't believe, if you have children or if you've ever been a child, you know that there is this great moment of anticipation that leads up to Christmas morning that's not it's unlike anything else. Now, I've made a joke for a long time that, my wife is a Christmas person. She's, you know, at 50 years old, she's a Christmas kid through and through. And so I made the joke, oh yeah, my wife, our Christmas tradition is that my wife gets up at 4 a.m. on Christmas and then just sits and waits for everybody else to show up. This year, however, that was not the case. This year, my wife walked out into the front room, the living room of our house, where our Christmas tree is, and all of the gifts and the stockings and all of that thing, all of the things that you would associate with the holiday. She walks out into that room, and at 4 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, what does she find? But both of our kids, one of them 21 years old, one of them 11 years old, both of them sitting on the couch at 4:30 a.m. just waiting. And she's like, "Hey, how what is going on? What are you doing up? How long have you been here?" And the youngest said, "Well, I've been out here since about 2:30." And she's like, "Yeah." And then he came out a little while after. So my kids were up and ready for Christmas at 2:30 to 3 in the morning. Now, on a normal day, if these people don't have school, I cannot get these people out of bed. There is no getting them out of bed. There are no alarms that get set. There is no amount of banging on doors and shaking of kids that will wake these kids up. But Christmas does something different to us. It's a different moment in our lives. And as much as I joke about that and kind of make fun of it and laugh about the kids being up at 2 in the morning. By the way, they were, like, destroyed by about midday. So I think they learned their lesson, but as I joke about that, I really wanna talk about what the holidays can do to us, and then sometimes what we let the holidays do to us. Have you had a family get together this year or any other year that's been a little uncomfortable, where things have been tense, where, like, the stress is rising really, really high? What do you do with that? How do you deal with it? Where do you put that in your life? And what strategies do you have to cope with it? We catch up with chat. My Christmas was great. John's family came over for the week. However, honestly, everyone tends to forget about me. So for me, it doesn't feel special anymore. But I try to keep it special for the rest of the family. I was also a little overwhelmed with my mother coming over. That's it, right? It's a big thing. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of pressure on us, and sometimes that pressure boils over. Sometimes it just got to work. Welcome in, Ember. Sometimes that pressure builds up to a point where things spill over and people get uncomfortable, they get stressed, they fight, they argue, they bicker. Even people who love each other the rest of the year, sometimes we run into that. So I thought that today we would break down how you can be a stable force in your family during these holiday get-togethers. Especially sometimes when you get together with the extended family. Like when my family gets together, we'll have our extended family Christmas here next week on the first. And when that whole family gets together, it's like 16 people in one room, and it's tight quarters. It's a lot of people, and there's a lot going on, and everybody is panicked about various different things because everybody's individual anxieties are coming in. Oh, is there enough food? Are things good enough? Are all of the kids happy, right? So there's all of those concerns that come in. And I just think we need to stop and take a moment to figure out how we can be the stabilizing force in this chaos that happens. Let me read. My mother-in-law has told me she sees me become visibly overwhelmed and short with words when my mother is around. It's gotten to a point where every little thing bothers me, and I just don't know how to let it go because she makes me feel disrespected. That's you know what? That's not fun, kitty cat. It's not fun. That's something that we definitely all deal with to one degree or another, right? There's always that one it doesn't it feel like there's always that one person who shows up for Christmas and they are gonna start a fight. That's just what they're there for, is they're there to start a fight. Now, we're pretty lucky. It's been the holiday get-togethers have been pretty tame for us for the past few years, but there have been times in the past where there have been people who've showed up and they kinda showed up in that spirit to maybe the intent coming in wasn't to start a fight, but maybe it's those things in them, those worries and those anxieties and that stress in them that spills out. Not just Christmas, it's all the time. So, how do we deal with those things, right? How do we become the stabilizing force instead of the person who is on the defensive? The person who's set on their back foot. Now, I'm going to tell you right up front today, we're going to talk about this for the duration of the stream together. But I've prepared some other materials. I really thought this was important. I really feel like this is something that's important for people. So I prepared a workbook. It's a surviving the holidays workbook. And maybe it's not just a holiday thing for you, but maybe it's dealing with a person in your life who may be especially difficult or who may be a high stress person. If you like that, I want to invite you to go to my website. That's ideatrainingacademy.com. And there's a box there. It says, put in your email address and we'll send you all of the things. You put your email address in there. I'll send you a link to all of the tools that we prepare every week, including the Surviving the Holidays workbook that I just put together this last week. So if you're already on that mailing list, which Kat, I know you are already on that mailing list. If you're already on that mailing list, then every week you'll get just a one email. I'm not looking to send a million emails a week. Sometimes you may get a couple if I've got a product launching or something like that. But generally speaking, it's going to be one email a week. I usually try and throw in a tip for dealing with your life and building growth in your life, and then I also will give you links to the outlines from the show so you can go over what we learned this week. And a lot of times I'll throw in a free tool of some kind. And so this week, if you're a part of that newsletter mailing list, you will get the Surviving the Holidays workbook completely free. It costs you nothing. Yes, sir. I'm good. I'm very glad to have you as a part of that. So let's talk through this. Now, you guys know that I created about a year and a half ago when I went into the business of starting to coach people at the executive level, at the performance level, when I went into the business of starting to consult with companies to help them become the best version of themselves and build the best teams and leaders that they could. I built a framework. And I call that framework IDEA. That's why my company is called the IDEA Training Academy. And I'm really proud of this framework, IDEA. And that framework is, we're going to break that down and talk about how that framework helps us to become a stable force when we're dealing with difficult people in our family. So let's break it down. Let's start with the I, right? I is identity. Everything starts from your identity. And you think, okay, well, that makes sense in terms of my personal growth. I have to know who I am and all those things. But what does that have anything to do with me going into a difficult family situation? What does that have to do with me showing up and my mom? This is a theoretical. My mother-in-law being a problem, or my brother coming over and him wanting to get into a fight with people. Like what does this have to do with dealing with these complicated family situations? Well, let me ask you this. What does it mean for you to be rooted in your identity? Do you know what that means? Do you have some kind of conversation with that idea of what it means to be rooted in your identity? Have you taken the time to really work out what that sense of identity is? Because identity, as I talk about it in the idea framework, is it's three people. It's really three people. Your identity is the person that you have been, right? It's the place that you come from. And a lot of times when people are figuring out, when I'm working with people in this coaching situation, one of the first things I'll ask them to do is go back and think about yourself as a kid, as a child, and think about yourself and try and hone in on who you were as that kid. What do you remember about yourself? How do you remember being? Now, our memories they're not perfect things. Excuse me for just a second. This is super awkward, but I have to take this call. Give me just one moment, please. Super awkward, right? That's okay. That's good. We're talking about awkward moments today. So, what just happened was for Christmas, one of the things that I got for my oldest was he had told me a little while ago. He says, "Hey, Dad, I really need a new hard drive for my computer. I really need, one of these solid state drives." His computer's old. It's one that he and I built, I don't know, years and years and years ago. And we've upgraded it through the years. But he's like, "Hey, I just really need this new hard drive." And so I filed that away. And so Christmas morning came, and one of his gifts was this new hard drive. And so I told him, "Hey, no problem. I'm gonna take this hard drive and, I'll install it." So I went, I opened up the computer, I get everything ready. I looked, and sure enough, I did not have the motherboard didn't have the screw to secure this solid state drive. There was no such screw on the motherboard. I didn't have one. It didn't come with the particular drive that I happened to purchase. And so I said, "You know what? I'm not even going to deal with this. What I'll do is I have a membership to Best Buy's whatever their tech program is, which, by the way, not a sponsor, Best Buy, but they're great. And I highly recommend. It used to be called Total Tech. I don't know what it's called anymore. It's this great membership, but you can take your tech in, and they'll fix it up for free. Well, for the price of the annual membership. I use it all the time. Anytime I've got a problem, I just take my stuff in and they fix it, and I don't have to think about it. A large part of your life, and I'll tie this back to your identity, right? Yeah, it's called Best Buy Total. Okay, thank you. One of the best purchases I make on a yearly basis. Because one of the things that I talk about when I talk about productivity, or I talk about reducing your stress levels, or I talk about focusing in on the things that matter, is you got to get rid of some of these things that you're spending time on, right? Sometimes you got to decide when it's time to spend maybe a little bit of money to offload some of that material. Or maybe it's not money. Maybe it's just you need to find somebody to help you in that area. So this is one of those things where it's like I pay a couple $100 a year, and then I just don't think about my repairs. I used to do all that on my own. I used to be able to do all of it. I probably still could, but I just offload all of it. So today I take the PC in, and I take the drive in, and I'm like, "Hey, I just need you to install this drive for me. And then I want to make this the boot drive. So could you just give me a clean install of Windows on this?" "Yes, sir. No problem." And they ask me the question, the one question that, of course, I didn't get the answer from my kid on the way in today. That question they asked me is, "Is there a password on this device?" Now, I don't know. I don't know the answer to this question. I figure probably not. So of course I text my son. I text him. Do I get an answer back? No. I get zero answers back from this kid because he is 21 and still probably asleep because he was up at 3:30 yesterday for Christmas morning. So no problem. Check it in. I'm driving home. On my way home, I get a text from my kid. It says, "Oh yeah, here's the password," and he gives me the password. Well, there's not much I can do about that because unfortunately, you can't just call the Best Buy store anymore. You call Best Buy, you get a call center, and maybe they route you to the store, but probably not. So I said, "You know what? I'm just going to let this go. I'm going to wait until they call me." Well, that's who just called me in the middle in the middle of the stream here. So what's the lesson we can take from this? What's the lesson I can learn from this, right? Is number 1, I could have been more prepared in that moment. I could have thought, "Okay, what are all of the things they could possibly ask me for? And how can I make sure that I'm fully prepared for this moment?" I could have told my kid, "Hey, listen, you need to come with me, right? When we go, you need to come with me in case there's any questions that they have to ask that I don't know the answer to." But I didn't do those two things. Now, I want you to see what I did there for a second, because that's going to play back into the conversation about dealing with our family here. And I'm not blowing this up like, "Hey, look at me. I'm a great example of anything," because quite frankly, I'm not. I'm just human like everybody else. But the intention there was this. It would have been very easy for me to go, "Ah, man, that stupid kid. He didn't tell me all this stuff he needed to. He just left this computer out for me. And there you go. I can't believe this irresponsible kid that lives in my house." But I made a choice. I made a choice in that moment, and I made a choice here with you to some degree to reflect back on myself and say, wait a minute, where did I contribute to that mistake? What was my contribution? Because one of the things that we need to learn when it comes to dealing with other people around us is that we cannot control other people's stuff. You can't control your family's stress level. You can't control your family's anxiety that's going to spill out in negative ways. You can't control your family's responsibility, their positivity, their ability to cope, their addictions, their self-medications. You can't control these things. You cannot control other people, but you have ultimate control over the way that you show up. And the first part of showing up the way that you want to is knowing who you are. Not just who you were, right? I was talking about that before I took the phone call. And not just who you are, right? Because who you are is important. Who are you? You know, I ask people this all the time. Who are you? And they have such a hard time answering just that question. Who are you? But more importantly, most importantly, I man, there's no way for me to say this. That there's just not a word in English for how important this is. I could call it the most important thing, and that still doesn't get it across. Because the most important thing for you to know is who you're becoming, who you want to become, and whether or not you're on the path towards becoming that person. Because the person that I'm becoming is a person who is in control of their own life, person who is not going to react based on their own emotions, but instead based on their own values. A person who doesn't blame other people for the things that I could have controlled. That's the person that I'm becoming. That's the best version of me. And so in that moment, I chose that identity. The first thing that I want you to do is when you're preparing to deal with potential difficult family situations, I want you to choose your identity. And I want you to go back to that identity time and time and time again. I want you to figure out what it is that you value. What's important to you about yourself, right? Is it we use words like integrity a lot. I had a coach that was a coach of mine for a little while that loved the word integrous, which is a word that quite frankly, I didn't even know it existed before he started to use it. But he used to love to say, I am an integrous person. I am a person of integrity, which is the way I would have said it. But what does that mean? What does it mean? If you want to be a person of integrity, integrity just means that your actions match up with the things that you say you believe in. So you have to know what you believe in first. You have to know the way that you believe the best version of you should act. Are you kind? Are you generous? Do you want to be those things? Are you becoming those things? Get rooted in those things. And then get ready to reflect on whether or not you're showing those things and then take action on those things, right? Like I just did. Use that intention. I'm not going to blame somebody else for something I had a hand in. Maybe they had a part in it, but what could I have done better, right? Be that person who says, "What could I have done better?" Not for the purpose of beating yourself up, but for the purpose of taking responsibility, right? And then you got to build some daily practices that will align you with these core principles. And this is where we get into the second part of the acronym. So the first part is identity. You've got to be really rooted in who you are, what you believe, and whether or not you're becoming that person that you want to be, right? That's the first part because without that, guys, you go into a bad family situation, you don't know who you are. Guess who you are? You're who everybody else in the room thinks you are. So you go into a room, I go into a room with my mom and dad, and I don't know who I am. I don't have that identity set up for myself. Then who am I? Who am I going to revert to? I'm going to revert to being that person that was the kid that last lived in their house. And I moved out of my mom and dad's house when I was 18 years old. Went away to college, never moved back in. And If I don't know who I am, then I walk into that room and I'm 18-year-old Andrew again. Let me tell you, that kid was all right, but he wasn't who I need to be. And so don't allow yourself to revert just because just because you haven't figured out your identity. But we move ourselves, then we want to get into disciplines. The D of idea is disciplines. And the disciplines that I want you to focus on when it comes to dealing with difficult family situations, those disciplines that are most important are really around communication. And if you've heard me talk before, you know that I believe that communication is the most important skill that you can build. There is nothing else from a skill standpoint that you can build that's more important than disciplines. Well, Andrew, you just said your identity was, knowing your identity was the most important thing. Yes, absolutely. The most important thing you can work out for yourself is who you are and who you want to be. But when it comes down to a thing that you have to practice, a skill that you have to learn, that's where communication comes into play. Because it's of absolutely no use for you whatsoever to know who you are if you cannot communicate effectively with other people. Because if you are 100% knowing who you are, good with who you are, completely happy in your own bubble, but you have no effect on the rest of the world, then you're living short of your potential. Because you were born to have an effect on the world. I don't just believe that, I know that. You were born to have an effect on the world, not just on yourself. When you don't want to get out of bed in the morning and you want to take care of yourself, that's great. But remember, you can't live in that place. You were born to have an effect on the world, a positive effect, a good effect, an effect for everything that is good. You were born for that. You were made for this moment. You got to step into it. And we step into it through learning effective communication. And effective communication comes, first of all, I believe this wholeheartedly. It comes from self-awareness. When people ask me, because I do a lot of work in the leadership development space, when people ask me what the most important type for a leader to have is, right? I deal with the 6 types of working genius, and it's all about, the genius of wonder and asking big questions and invention and really coming down and figuring out the solutions and so on and so forth. And so people ask me what is the best type? What are the best geniuses for a leader to have? And I always have to tell them, no, you're missing it. You're missing it, because all of those things are ways that we approach work, and anybody can approach people with different approaches to work can be great leaders. But the one thing that unites all great leaders, all really great leaders, and this is how you know that some of our politicians in this day and age are not great leaders. They may be great manipulators. They might be great showmen. They might even be great policymakers, but they're not great leaders. And the reason that they're not great leaders, and the thing that unites all great leaders, is self-awareness. If you don't have self-awareness, you cannot be a great leader. You cannot be. And if you don't have great self-awareness, you cannot be a great communicator either. And if there's one thing I want you to strive for in your life, it's to be a great communicator. Now, maybe that doesn't mean, probably it doesn't mean that you're going to go out and give speeches to people. It probably doesn't even mean that you're going to start a channel on Twitch or YouTube like this, and you're going to get in front of a camera and you're going to talk to a group of people about how to grow and develop themselves. It may not mean any of those things, but it is about the way that you're able to relate to other people, the influence that you're able to exert in moving people towards a positive space, a better place. So you have to start with self-awareness. So self-awareness is this: how do I communicate? When I communicate to other people, what's my default mode? Right? Now, I've talked a bunch about Erwin McManus's 7 frequencies of communication. I'm not going to stop. If that's a turnoff, then by all means. I'm not going to stop talking about it, because I really do believe it's probably the most important communication framework that I've ever encountered in my life. You can find this at the7frequencies.com, spell it out S-E-V-E-N, the7frequencies.com. He wrote a book on it explaining the framework. There's an assessment that you can take to find out what your frequencies are. If you'd like my help and my guidance through that, I'd be glad to do that for you as well. Just hit exclamation coaching in chat, and we can schedule a time to talk through your unique communication style. But really, you gotta figure it out one way or the other, with or without the framework. You gotta figure out what your default communication style is. Because if you're a challenger, the person who sees the best in everybody and wants to call them up to that and doesn't want to let them settle for less than that, then in some rooms that are high tension, that challenger frequency can cause a lot of problems, right? So it's not bad. It's not bad to have any frequency. You can use them in a bad way, but it's okay to, I mean, not only okay, it's really important to have the challenger frequency. I use the challenger frequency a lot, and it's one of the most important frequencies that people speak into my life because it keeps me motivated to do the types of things that I'm doing right now, to try and spread as much information about how to get better as I can in the world. But if you don't know that about yourself, if you don't know, oh, I approach a room as a challenger by default, then when things get tough, you're gonna fall into a default. Hey Ben, welcome in. And your default self, it might not be your best self. It might be a self that you don't want in that room. So you got to be self-aware. What's your baseline mode of communication? Maybe you're the commander. You're the person who comes in and takes charge and tells people what they need to do because you know what they need to do. And that frequency is so important because when you're in a place and people don't know what to do, the one thing that people actually want is to be told what to do. And we don't have. I'm maybe going to be the first one to say in this forum, we don't have enough of those commanders in the world. We need more people who come in and tell us what's going on. Hey, Terratex, welcome in. But a commander in a room full of family members that's already stressed could be a problem, right? Could be a problem. Maybe you're a healer frequency and you see people's brokenness, you see their wounding, right? And the way that they're hurt, and you want to help heal those things. That could be a great frequency to bring to the room. Maybe if you don't have that frequency, maybe that's a frequency that you need to tap into. I always say when people are difficult people in their life, you have to look for where the break is. Where's the wound, right? Where's that moment that caused that person to become like the way that they are, right? I had a friend. Unfortunately, this person is. I no longer consider this person to be a friend. They're a person that has exited my life, and he got really personal and attacked me on some things many years ago. And it was one of those situations where he had made some comments on some of my social channels, and I had said, I had responded to the comments and said, "Hey, listen, like you don't know me anymore. You and we have an interface for many years. You don't know me anymore. You don't really have the right to make this kind of commentary about me." And he came back and was very open, was very personal about the way that he attacked me, and really went back to our experience in high school and talked about how people used to make fun of me behind my back, the people that I thought were my friends weren't my friends, and just really came at me with a lot of things that were really hurtful. And it took me a long time to get past that. I'm gonna be honest with you. There, it's only in the past couple years that I've been able to get past that. But when I thought back about it, what I realized is it wasn't about me. It wasn't about me in that moment. What I said was not that inflammatory. He was looking for somebody to attack because there was something going on in him that was making him feel less. And I don't know exactly what that was. I'm not sure exactly what that moment was, I don't know if it was way back in his past or if it was more recent. So I don't know what it was that was making him feel less, but I do know that that attack on me was not about me. It was about the fact that he needed to feel more powerful than somebody else. So when I'm dealing with somebody who's difficult, I always think about what is it that they need that's leading them to this place. Let's see. Let me catch up with chat. Sorry. Tal, hi Orpheus. I'm a commander, challenger, and empath. All right. All right. Like hubby having to ask me for a list of things to do, and it's stressful because then I need to stop and manage a list for him. So, Kat, one of the things that I'll go back to there is I can totally see how that would be stressful completely. And of all the people who could probably relate to you there, my wife, Patience, could definitely relate to you there because patience is when we go back to the language of the working geniuses. She has the genius of invention and the genius of tenacity, which means she is always solving problems and always seeing them through to the end. But I don't have those geniuses. Those are not my geniuses. My geniuses are enablement, which means I get joy and energy from helping people, and discernment, which means I'm really good at, kind of seeing patterns and using my gut and things like that. But what that doesn't mean is it doesn't mean that I'm really good at seeing the immediate solutions, the things that just need to be handled in the space that's immediately around me. And so one of the things that was really contentious for us early on in our relationship, we're talking now back 25 years ago, was that she would see all the things that needed to get done, and I would want to help, but my way of helping would be to go to her and say, "Hey, like, what can I do?" Or worse yet, early on when I was really young, it would just be to wait for her to tell me what she needed me to do. And that was really frustrating for her because she could see the path through to the things that needed to be done, but I didn't have that. I didn't have that. Now I've worked to try and develop it over the years, but I wouldn't have done that unless I had that understanding. So it could be that, right? And so there's that moment where those two styles have to come together in the middle. And there's got to be some connection of, oh, I need to figure things out to do. Let me look really hard around the house and figure out what I can do. In fact, if you've read my 7 commitments, if you've seen my 7 commitment daily planner, one of my 7 commitments that I make every single morning is what am I going to do for somebody else today? Right? What am I going to do for somebody else? And a lot of days, that's going to be something I'm going to do for patients, right? It could be, oh, you know what? I took my shower. I went into the closet today to change my clothes, and I realized that the clothes hamper was full. Okay, I'm going to do a load of laundry for her so that she doesn't, have to deal with it when she gets home. Right? It could be something stupid like that. But those stupid little gestures end up being meaningful, right? In those moments. And so but also she is very intentional about taking a step back sometimes and saying, "Hey, I need your help now. It's important now. This is the time, when you can step up and you can help me out." So there's always that blending, right? Blending of styles. He's slowly working at it, but it just gives me more of a mental workload. I would continue to navigate that, cat. Just continue to find the place that's in the middle, right? And the key is we're talking about communication. The key is continuing to communicate about it. Hey, how did we do this week, right? I know it sounds silly to have weekly recaps, but I really think this is important. It's important to be intentional about, hey, how did we show up this week? Did we do it? Did the things we said we were going to do, did we do them? Where did you maybe out of the moment, right? So it's like, okay, we're in a moment of downtime. The task list is gone for the time being. It's like kids are in bed. We're in a moment. Like, how do we show up this week? Did we do it? At this particular time on this day, I was feeling a little stressed because it seemed like you were wandering around and not knowing what to do. Or maybe on the other side, hey, I really felt a lot of tension this week because I wanted to step in and help, but I didn't want to add to your stress level by asking you the question. And so I just want to acknowledge that I didn't really know the right places to help out. And as a result, I feel like I probably didn't do enough. Right. But if we have those communications, if we have those things, and if we continue to focus on the way that we're showing up in those things, we're going to be more successful. right? Head of steel, next family get together challenge. Asking my siblings, why are you the way you are? Without being sarcastic or sounding hurtful. I mean, I think that's a fair question. I would say this, right? I would say that if we're willing and able to ask other people why they are the way they are, we better be able to answer the question ourselves. There's this great passage in the Bible that says, always be ready to give an answer for the hope that you have, right? And, and so a lot of Christians take that to, we got to know every single thing about the Bible and all of these things. And that's not what it's about, right? It's not what it's about. It's about, no, it's about knowing the most fundamental things. You got to know the most fundamental things about yourself. And one of those things is, why are you the way you are? Right? Why am I the way I am? And it's not always about your trauma, guys. I'm not a licensed anything. Oh, it's not true. I'm a licensed some things. But I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I'm not here to deal with your past stuff. It exists. It's there. It's a part of what's in your database there that runs the way that you predict things. But it's not always about your trauma, right? Who you are is not always about your trauma. We spend way too much time in our trauma, I think. And those of us who are spending that much time in it are usually not dealing with it in the right way, which is to get help, right? The right way to deal with trauma is to get somebody who knows how to help you with that and to help you take steps to build structures around that. So if you're doing that, awesome, super good. If you're not doing that and all you're doing is talking about your trauma all the time, I'm going to use the challenger frequency a little bit here, and I'm going to tell you, you need to knock it off. Because if you just want to talk about it, but you don't really want to do anything about it, you don't really want to process it, then just stop talking about it. It's like the old joke of people, people who are vegans, right? They just want to tell everybody that they're vegans, right? It's like that old joke. But I think that people who are trauma informed, but not health and not finding help for that, all you're doing is telling me you're a vegan, right? So good, so good. He may just be asking out of politeness. He literally just never knows where to start. I can empathize, Cat. I'm the same way. I'm the exact same way. Um, I am, but she gets when it comes to organizing things, he gets overwhelmed because there's so much, especially with 4 kids. So he asked me if I would organize, and he would then clean. All right. Well, that's a place to start, right? That's a part of the conversation. I like that. I like that you guys are talking to get on the same page. So you got to continue that dialogue. You got to keep moving. Good communication, asking for help, meeting halfway will eventually really reduce that mental load. Hey, listen, I all I can say is you got to take it from the expert there, right? Patch is the one person in my life that I've actively watched go through that process successfully, and she's amazing at it now. She's so good at it. I had an uncle tell the story of throwing out dirty dishes and going to yard sales to buy new clean ones. Oh my. Definitely trying to work at communicating better. I'm so glad for that. That's one of the most important things you can do. So let's jump back to the holiday gatherings, right? Not that I want to leave that out, but just that I want to tie all of this together. We you are amazing, and we don't muddle through. So here's what I'm going to say. First of all, try and understand the way that you communicate. Listen, who said this week? Who did I hear? I think it was Brendan Burchard. And Brendan Burchard. He's got a great daily podcast or weekly podcast that's called Motivation. It's just called Motivation. And he was saying, we spend so much time focusing on the words people say that we miss what they're really saying, right? We get so hyper focused, but this can go the other way too, guys. We can get so focused on the words that we're saying, and gosh darn it, they're the right words and they're conveying the right information, and we're saying them the wrong way. Self awareness. So important, so important, so important. So, what helps with this? Mindfulness. Mindfulness is a great place to start with self awareness. Building mindfulness skills important for all kinds of things, but here are just a few things, right? Deep breathing, right? Taking a moment to clear that mind, right? Breathing in, holding the breath for a moment, breathing in deep, and then blowing that breath out, right? Long exhale. This is science, right? The science of this is it activates a nerve that's called the vagus nerve, and this nerve is a part of settling getting your nervous system out of fight or flight. So the one technique that you'll hear all the time is you take a deep breath in through your nose, you hold it, and then you long exhale, just like you were blowing through a straw, right? And if you do this 3 times in a row, at least 3 times in a row, that's going to help reset that vagus nerve. That's going to help bring you down out of that fight or flight. It's going to help lower those cortisol levels that are putting you in that position where you're saying, oh, this is a snake that's about to bite me, because not everything is a snake, right? You need to get to a place where you can tell yourself it's not a snake. Deep breathing is the best thing. It's like magic when it comes to recentering yourself. Absolutely. So when you find yourself in a place where you're like, I'm not communicating the way I need to, start with a deep breath. That's the first thing. Body scans, right? Body scan is just the process of going. We used to do this in acting. This is an old acting exercise that's now everybody's using it. It's now a therapy exercise, but it was an acting exercise that we used to do. And it was just a sensory inventory. And it was just like starting from the top of my head, just figuring out where is the tension that I'm holding. Is it in my cheeks? Is it in my jawbone? In my eyes? Where am I holding this tension? Is it here in my neck? Is it in my shoulders? Where am I holding that tension? And then just releasing that tension, right? Body scan. And you can do this, if you have to, exit the room, go outside, sit down, right? Go to the bathroom, go to another room, just take a moment, take those deep breaths, body scan, find out where you're holding the tension, because you cannot react with your intellect when you're in a state of fight or flight. When you allow yourself, and I'm going to use that terminology, right? When you allow yourself to become stressed enough, because you got to take steps to keep yourself from getting there in the first place. When you allow yourself to become stressed enough, you're putting yourself in a position where you cannot be the stable person in the room. Cannot be that linchpin, I think is the way that Brandon Bouchard talked about it. So body scan, deep breath, and then mindful listening too. When you're listening to somebody, you ever take stock of whether or not you're actually hearing what they're saying, or whether your brain is formulating the next thing that you're going to say? Edisio, my doctor recommends 20 deep breaths an hour for a variety of reasons. I mean, there's a whole science to breathing. Yeah. The benefits of breathing on your health. I listened to a really interesting podcast with a diver, like a deep diver, and talking about practicing and the benefits, just the amazing health benefits of deep breathing, and especially of that prolonged exhale. That's really a big part of it. Bathroom outside, yes, definitely go to the bathroom outside if you need to. But deep breath, body scan, mindful listening. Am I really listening, or am I formulating my comeback? Am I really listening, or am I thinking about how I'm going to inject myself into this conversation? Now, this is a big thing. I touched on this a few times, but one-upping people at these family gatherings is a big thing. I have a relative in my life who, anytime you tell him a story about something, he's got a story about something that was better than that thing. Or I've got a friend in my life who, anytime you tell her about something, she's got something that relates to that something. And what happens is, oh yeah, well, you should see. Oh, yeah, that totally makes me, you should totally check this out. Oh, that's nothing compared to, right? That's these moments. Or, oh, you know, oh, you're good at that. Well, I know somebody who's so good at that, right? And there's these moments of one-upping, 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 one-upping. And when we do it, a lot of times we think we're just being relatable. Like, in our mind, again, because I know these people, I know that in their mind, what they're doing is they're trying to be in the conversation. But what they're doing is they're invalidating me in that conversation, because it's no longer about the story that I was trying to tell, about them being a part of that story. And so, catch yourself. Are you listening mindfully, or are you waiting to formulate your response? All the time, and I could do a whole lot better than my record indicates. This is a big problem for me too, and you guys will catch me doing it. If you watch any of my other streams where where I'm interacting with other people, even sometimes in these streams, you'll catch me doing it. Here, I'm always trying to help and to bring things in from my life that are demonstrations. But when I'm in just regular conversation with people, I really have to watch myself to not do this. I really have to be intentional about it. But let me challenge you to do that in your next get together with people who may be difficult. Let me challenge you to be really intentional about that and see if it makes a difference. Get back to me on that. Let me know. Um, and then last but not least, the last point on these disciplines, these communication disciplines, is try and figure out how to adapt your style to the style that the room needs. This is going back to the 7 frequencies, right? But really try to be sensitive to what that room needs. Is that room full of hurt and it needs that healer? Or is that room, is that room just in need of somebody to like completely reorganize the way that they see everything? Or is it in need of somebody just to take the reins, right? Just be mindful, be prepared to bring the right communication style. And also be prepared. This is the hardest one of all, guys. It's so hard. I don't know why this is the case, but it's hard to be vulnerable with your family sometimes, especially your extended family. But be prepared to admit when you were wrong, when you took the wrong approach. Because leading by example is a thing in family relationships as much as it's a thing in the workplace or outside the family. Be prepared to lead by example. All right, so this moves us on to the E in idea, which is execution. And execution is all about showing up on the day, as we always say in the theater, showing up on the day, which means on the day of the performance, right? Showing up on the day, execution. These are the big moments. So this is like, hey, identity, disciplines, that's your prep for the big game, right? If you don't have your identity and your disciplines in place, there's no way you're going to win. You could be the most talented player on the football field, but if you haven't gone through your reps and if you don't really know your identity, how many times do we talk? I'm a huge college football fan. And how many times, if you are also a college football fan, how many times do we see teams that lose and the commentators say, yeah, their offense just doesn't have an identity, right? They don't build that identity on the field. It doesn't happen in the big game, guys. I'm going to go watch I'm not going to go watch. I'm going to watch from my mom and dad's house, the Pinstripe Bowl on Saturday. And this is the first bowl game that the Nebraska Cornhuskers have been in since 2016, which incidentally, I was at that last bowl game. And let me tell you what, they're not going to build an identity in the Pinstripe Bowl. If they didn't already build the identity, it's too late. They're going to lose. If they didn't do the disciplines, if they didn't do the daily practice, if they didn't build the strength building and the conditioning and the memorization of the playbook and the constant repetition of the daily things that go into making them great, they're not going to get it done in the big game. And you're not going to get it done in the big game of your holiday get-togethers if you haven't done those things either, right? If you haven't set yourself up for success. So preparation, daily disciplines are what help us prepare for these big moments of execution. Now, when you get to this moment, though, it's time for you to execute on all of those things that you've done. How am I going to show up? Who am I? How am I going to show up? What's my intention coming in? What's my goal? What am I going to do today? And then communication. How am I going to properly use my communication disciplines to make sure that I am a solid person in the room, not a part of the chaos? And then staying grounded, right? Staying grounded. I'm going to introduce you to the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. Are you familiar with the 5-4-3-2-1 technique at all? The 5-4-3-2-1 technique is a technique that you can use. It's one, and I don't. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not even sure where I learned this. at this point, but it is one of those techniques that you can use to ground you in the moment. And this is in it'll be in the episode guide, and also it's in the workbook that I'm sending out to those people who are on my mailing list. Again, ideatrainingacademy.com. Please throw your email in there if you're not a part of my mailing list already. That is how I communicate all of these practices to people on a weekly basis, and it's how you can get your own, your own downloadables to keep and to maybe adapt and to do whatever you want in your life. And maybe you'll find some tools that are just right for what you need to. Maybe they're not all going to fit for you, but you might find them. Here's the 5 4 3 2 1 technique. We start with 5 things you can see, and this is just internal. This is all internal monologue. What are 5 things you can see? So right now I might say water glass, phone, camera, screen, microphone, right? 5 things that I can see. What are 3 things that you can hear? I hear, let's see, right now, and this one takes a little time sometimes. I can hear the fan in the bathroom that I left on. I can hear the clinking of dishes in the kitchen. I think my wife is doing some preparation of some kind. I can hear voices talking in the other room. 3 things you can hear. Oops, left out 4. Sorry. 4 things you can touch. What can I touch right now, right? What can I touch? I could do my own fingertips, right? Maybe that's just it. Maybe just grounding in my own body. Right now, the arms of my chair, I can touch that. It could be my jeans right here, right? So that's 3 things. And then maybe just the desk, maybe just the desktop, right? Keep myself grounded in this moment. Keep myself present. What are 4 things you could touch? Then 3 things you can hear. 2 things you can smell right now. Let's see, what can I smell? I can smell the leftover from the incense that I burned in the bathroom this morning because I like to do that when I'm taking my shower. It's a part of how I keep mindfulness. Is I like to use scent to help bring me present into a place. And I can smell a little bit of almost a metallic scent that's coming, I think, from this pop filter that I have in front of my microphone. So 2 things you can smell, and then 1 thing that you can taste, right? Maybe you can ground yourself by finding, I don't know if your holidays are like ours, but there's always something around to grab up and you can pop it in your mouth, right? But what's another thing you can taste? What's something you're tasting in your mouth? Maybe something that's left over from your last meal. I got a family moment I have to share. Found out Christmas Eve. Yeah, cough drops. By all means, please share. So that's the 5 4 3 2 1, and use that when you're in the moment of execution to help yourself stay grounded, right? And then execution is the big game. It's all about adapting in real time. It's all about flexibility. It's about that active listening. It's about decision making. And decision making, if you're gonna make decisions, make them in stressful situations. Make them out of your intellect and not out of your emotion. We can feel our emotions. We can feel our feelings, but you cannot act out of your feelings when you're in a stressful situation. If you act out of your feelings when you're in a stressful situation, what you will do is you will compound the issue, right? So ask yourself before you say anything, before you do anything, ask yourself, am I am I reacting out of what I'm feeling right now? Do I need to let that feeling go? Or am I reacting out of what I know is right, out of what I value right now? So that's kind of those are some of the things to think about when you get into the execution, when you get into the big game. And the last part of the IDEA acronym is accountability. A for accountability. And this is accountability is all about staying true to your commitments, okay? And this is all about you pre-deciding on how you're going to show up. You have to choose how you're going to act even in the tough moments. But you have to do that beforehand. You don't have a goal going in, then you're at the mercy of the situation. You have got to be the master of your own ship. You've got to be in charge. You got to be in command of your situation. You got to decide today, I'm going to show up. How am I going to show up? I'm going to show up as a positive person who's here to bring joy, who's here to or maybe just fun. I'm going to show up in a fun way, right? And then, because if you do that, you can keep yourself accountable throughout the day by checking in with yourself. Am I being fun? Am I keeping this fun? What's keeping me from doing that? Maybe it's a body scan. Maybe I'm holding tension in my body. Maybe I think something's a snake that's not a snake. Maybe I'm not communicating the right way. But it all comes back to, am I showing up the way that I pre-decided that I was going to show up? And then also it's about encouraging open communication. And I know that it's weird, right? You're not gonna go to a family Christmas dinner or a New Year's celebration. You're not gonna go in there and say, okay, everybody, let's just we're gonna sit down. I want to make sure we have open communication. Let's all get our intentions out on the table. You're not gonna do that. People are gonna laugh at you. It's not gonna work, right? But it could be about this. Open communication is about modeling open communication. So, what are the good things that you can see in people? And what are the good things that you can say about people? My sister, who's an insane person, I love her, but she's an insane person. And the middle sister, so there's three of us in the family. I have two younger sisters. The middle sister, we were on this cruise that we went with the whole family, like a crazy person. We booked the entire family, my mom and my dad, my whole family, and both of my sisters and their whole families. We booked all 16 of us onto a cruise for Thanksgiving, over Thanksgiving. And I'll tell you, if you want to talk about, Christmas Day being, being a tense moment, there was a lot of tension going into this thing because, 5 days together on a ship with almost no way to escape, right? What was this going to look like? And there was a little bit of tension. There was a little slip here or there. But you know what? I'm really proud of the way that everybody came out of that because everybody worked really hard. But one of the things on the last night of the cruise, my crazy sister, she came in and she's like, yeah, my family, we were just giving props to everybody. We did a prop session. And their prop session was they went around and they just, amongst themselves, they just said all of the things that people had done that week to contribute to it being a good experience. Right? And so they talked about my daughter, Serenity, having a lot of flexibility and really like, you know, melding to the what was needed in this situation. She talked about all of those things, right? And so I think the prop session is good. It sounds a little silly, but I really think it's good. But I think it's more important to express those things to people, right? So not just, hey, mom, thanks for making all this food, but hey, mom, I want you to know that this particular thing that you made was really, really good. And it made this day better for me, right? Because people want to know how they affect the world. We all want to know that we have an effect on the world. You need to let people know how they're having that effect on you because that's going to make things better. That's role modeling good, positive communication. Be good intentions. Don't go into it believing that people are coming in with bad intentions. If you go in that way, you've already lost the battle. Right? Yes, 10 to 0%. Oh, 100%. Got it. But go in with believing that people have good intentions. It's okay if somebody doesn't, right? I've said this a million times. I've said it in the context of streaming even. Because, there have been people who have come into the community, and I've had a couple of people who are really well intentioned and really looking out for me. And they said, hey, this person's going to come in. They're going to do all kinds of things. You need to be careful of them. And I said, you know what? I have to give them a chance. Got to give them a chance. And if I'm wrong and I look like an idiot, you know what? I kind of am an idiot sometimes. It's not, the stakes are not that high for me. Right. But I would rather believe the best and be proven wrong than believe the worst and be proven right. Because what I believe says something about me. The way people react, the way people behave, that says something about them. But what I believe, that says something about me. So let what you say, let what you believe, say good things about you, not bad things about you. So it's about that. And then, set clear expectations also, right? And this isn't about setting clear expectations isn't about again sitting everybody down and going, okay, here's what it's going to be. You're going to tell us what to do, and then you're going to listen to it. And no, it's not about that. But setting clear expectations is really about defining with yourself what role you're going to play, and then just being open and honest with people when there's some conflict on that, and just saying, hey, maybe it's again, maybe if your intention was to show up and bring fun. Hey, listen, I just came here to bring fun today. So I want to do that however I can. And If that's, if that's gonna clash with what you want to do, then I just need to know what I can do to bring more fun, right? But you gotta have those clear expectations. Don't anticipate other people's expectations. Ask them, right? Ask them. People are out in the kitchen. Hey, do you need help right now? Or would I be in your way? Right? Ask people. Expectations is all about communication. It all goes back to communication. So, so, so important. So, uh, cough drops, are you gonna tell us your family moment or what, man? I'm excited to hear it. So let us know, please, by all means. In the meantime, let me just recap, right? So, identity, you got to know who you are if you're going to go in the right way. Disciplines, you got to practice things like communication. You're going to show up the way you want to show up. Execution, it's all about knowing what your goals are and your intentions are going in, flexing to meet those goals, playing the big game right. Oh, sorry for the delay with helping me out. No, you're totally fine. You just left me hanging. Uh, let's see. And then accountability, checking in with yourself. Am I staying true to what I said I was going to do? How I was going to show up? So listen, I want you to be a stable force in your family. That's what I want for you because I believe that's the best version of you. Not the version of you that gets blown around with all the chaos and all the things that are going on, but the version of you that comes in and says, "You know what? I know who I am. I'm prepared for this moment. I'm not going to let it affect me because I understand that other people, I can't control other people. I can only control myself, but I'm going to show up in the best way that I possibly can." And then a last reminder, right? First of all, oh, you did send the message. Do you send it in Discord? Hang on. Or where do you send the message? Maybe I'm looking in the wrong place. Hang on. Let's see here. I'm looking. I'm looking. Oh, in chat? No, you sent it in sent it in chat. I just didn't see it pop up. I saw I got a family moment I have to share. Found out Christmas Eve. And then I don't have another chat from you after that. Cough drop. So drop it for me again. Oh, sorry. Okay. So listen, guys, while Cough Drops is in ads for a moment, what I want to do is I want to thank you very much for being here, especially those of you who continue to support this channel through your subscriptions and through the various other things that you do. I just want to let you know I'm super grateful for you guys. I've been grateful all along to you. And, sometimes I don't always show it in the way that I need to, but I want to remind you that I'm full of gratefulness for you. When I think about what I'm thankful for, you guys are a big part of that. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for your engagement. I love that you guys come to this stream, but I also love that you don't make it just a monologue. That I always come prepared for that because I always come prepared for the fact that nobody might show up, right? Because I don't know, right? But I appreciate that you don't let it just be a monologue, but that you do engage and that you interact, and I love that. I hope you get something useful out of this as well. Next episode will be next week, so we'll do this again next Thursday. I do have some upcoming content, so want to remind you, go to ideatrainingacademy.com, drop an email address there for me in the blank so that I can send you the How to Survive the Holidays workbook, as well as all of the show notes and, maybe just one tip a week with you. You're back. Okay, Cough Drops. Drop it in here again. I'm so sorry. For whatever reason, your comment didn't show up in chat for me. So hit me again. All your advice is always helpful. I appreciate that, Kat. I also want to remind you guys, today is the last day to sign up at early bird pricing for the paid tiers of the New Year's Challenge. Now, listen, all of that to say, listen, you and me here now, guys. The New Year's Challenge is free. It will cost you nothing to sign up. There is a 100% free tier. And for that free tier, what you're going to get is I'm going to be in the new year in January. I'm going to take 30 days and every day I'm going to send you a message. And that message is going to help you build a framework to make a change in your life. Make one change in your life. We're not going to go after everything. We're not going to do a New Year's resolution where we're going to go to the gym every day and then we don't do it. We're not going to do that. Okay? We're going to make one meaningful change in your life. And it starts again for free with me just sending you a challenge every day. And then there's going to be a couple other things. I'm going to do a live kickoff, and that'll be actually be a Zoom call where you can come in and you can ask me questions live on that. And of course, we'll touch on it in the streams every week as well. So there'll be some things. There'll be some content that's specifically designed for those people who sign up for the challenge for free. There are 2 paid tiers as well. There's a premium tier and there is a VIP tier. And those come with some additional touch points, right? Some additional coaching. So we're talking about the premium tier, I think is $39 for the early bird. The premier tier is $129. And that's live. That's some live coaching. That's some live in the premier. Even it's or in the high end, the VIP. It's even some one-on-one sessions, right? And these are things that I get to do with very high level of executives a lot of times, or very high performing people. But I wanted to open up and make that available to people who can't spend $1 million, on hiring a coach on the regular. But I believe that with just a few of these sessions, or even if you're just dipping your toe into your personal development, even just by signing up for the challenge and getting those prompts and responding back to those prompts on a daily basis, that's gonna make a change in your life. So if you got a little money to invest, invest in yourself this next month and sign up for one of those paid tiers. Early bird pricing ends today, but I'm not pushing you to do that. Sign up for the free tier. Get the material. Get the prompts every day. Keep yourself accountable to something in 2025. Let's make it the best, the best that we ever can. Cough drops, you can just drop it in the chat right here, my friend. It's totally fine. You don't have to send it in the Discord. I just don't know why it didn't show up for me in chat here for some reason. Tal, talking about expectations, thinking all horses know what a mash is, and racehorses have no clue about certain treats and certain foods. Well, horses are like humans in that way. Sometimes we have expectations around the way other people are going to behave or react to certain things, and they don't have any way to know what our expectations are of them unless we tell them, right? So that's good. So once again, if you're watching the replay, I want to encourage you to comment. If you are not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would like to ask you to do that. That would be a lovely thing for you to do. If you would like and subscribe the video as well, it helps other people find it, and it will help you find your way back to me as well. So, Pop Drops, if you got that comment, hit me up with it now. If not, toss it to me over in Discord, and I will be glad to respond to it on the one-off. Anybody else got anything else exciting that is going on in their lives right now? Drop it in chat. I think I have to on Discord. Okay, well, you can send it to me on Discord, Cough Drops. It's totally fine. But we're out of time for right now. It won't work here. Got it. We are out of time for right now. I will look forward to seeing that right now. Listen, guys, my name is Andrew, and this is the last Idea Academy stream of the year. That never occurred to me. It's the last one of the year. We have had a great year in 2024. I'm so excited about 2025. And like I always say, guys, listen, I just want you to know that I'm just blowing smoke when I say that you've got a moment of greatness that's waiting for you. I told you already. I believe you are born into this world to make a change. I hope you have a wonderful night. Thank you. Oh, it came across. Hang on. Let me look. Oh, message requests. Here it is. Okay, hang on. It says, on Christmas Eve, we opened presents. We were all at the dinner table. At the point we were done eating, conversations were going on, but I was on the couch, unaware of what was going on. And my sister, who already knew, told me to go over there to find out. I was impatiently, basically. It was very important to me to know what the conversation was. I was showed a book of a picture of a baby in the womb. It turns out it was my older sister, which means I, Cough Drops, will become an uncle in July. Might have taken 15 years, but I will not be the youngest anymore. Congratulations, Cough Drop. Congratulations on being an uncle. That's going to be amazing. That's such a great thing. And what a great way to go out, guys. Listen, let's go out with new life, with new vigor, with new excitement and new commitments to be our best selves. Because you know what? You've got a moment of greatness that's waiting for you, but it's not coming for you. It's up to you to pursue that moment. Know you can do it. Go be great.
It's calling for you. Ooh, the world is calling for you.